Pamela, let us finish off the May 2023 paper. We'll be doing question 4, which is manufacturing. We've been given information relating to Roxy's Racing. Roxas Racing is a manufacturing company that produces and sells aerodynamic clothing used in a variety of competitive sports. They own 1,500 square meters property, of which 1,000 square meters is allocated to the factory and the rest to the office administration and the selling and distribution department. Now, what you needed to do here is to highlight that information because it's key, all right? It's very, very important. This is the total space. We don't know which expense we are going to allocate using the size of the property. We'll wait to read that. And we know that 1,000 square meters goes to the factory. And if it goes to the factory, whatever expense we have will be under factory overheads, and we will simply multiply it by 1,000 divided by 1,500 because 1,500 is a total factory space. Actually, it's a total space of the property, and only 1,000 of that space is where we have built a factory, right? And then 500 will be shared between administration and selling and distribution department. They will have to wait to read that. Now they're telling us that their financial year ends on the 28th of February each year, meaning that it started on the 1st of March 2021 and it will end on the 28th of February 2022. When you read at the balances that were extracted from their financial reports, we've got direct material, and for last year, direct material was 670,000, and this year it is 730,000. That information will go to your direct material cost note. You know it is note number 1. All right. Now, when we get there, I've already entered it for you. Now, closing balance there, as you can see, the closing balance will be that 730,000 you subtracted. Okay. The next one will have work in progress. At the beginning of the year, which is the 1st of March, it was 524,000. At the end of the year, it will be 718,000. Remember, you add work in progress at the beginning of the year, you subtract work in progress at the end of the year. And this will be recorded in our production cost statement. However, according to this, we were not given the production cost statement. They just gave you an empty box to fill up. Now, in this empty box, you'll know that it normally starts with prime cost. So even if you wrote PC, you can abbreviate here because they're just looking for numbers. They're not looking for details, all right? What makes up PC will be RMC, which stands for raw material cost, and then will be DLC, which stands for direct material cost, okay? For direct material cost, we'll just calculate it later on. And immediately after that, to those two, you know that they're going to give you a prime cost. Then we're going to have factory overheads. You can just write that as FOH. I prefer to write it as FOH. And after factory overheads, we will have our total manufacturing or production cost. And then we will have work in progress at the beginning of the year. And work in progress at the beginning of the year will be 524,000. We added. And work in progress at the end of the year, you subtracted. So you don't have to write it in full. You can write that as WIP, BOY, WIP, EOY, beginning of year, end of year. Let's move on. The next one there will be finished goods. Now, finished goods will be recorded under what we call cost of finished goods, which is cost of sales, right? cost of sales and how do we calculate cost of sales. Normally, when we calculate cost of sales, we'll take opening finished goods and whatever comes from the production, and then subtract closing finished goods, and then you will get your cost of sales. I see a question mark as the value for finished goods at the end of the financial year is not given to us. And I don't think they ask for cost of sales, but they're asking for that value. So we know that we have the balance at the beginning of the year, which is 500 and it wasn't 524. Balance at the beginning of the year for finished goods. Let me just go back and check how much it is. The balance of finished goods at the end of the year will be that 1,908,000. 1,908,000, you are going to put it as the balance of finished goods under cost of sales figure in your cost of sales note. And we don't put that in brackets, you put it without brackets. However, the closing balance of finished goods, you will put it with brackets. As I have said, balance at the beginning of the year will be 1,908,000. And balance at the end of the year, the thing is I don't have it here. So I'll just put it in brackets. So whatever we're going to get there, we're going to subtract it for us to get cost of sales. In between, we are going to put production cost, which comes from your production cost statement. And again, the production cost statement was not given to you. So we have to calculate. Whatever we get here will be what we put in the middle there and add it to the opening balance and subtract whatever we get as the closing balance to get cost of sales. So the fact that we're not given closing balance, it's obvious here we need to be given cost of sales. If you're not given cost of sales, they will give you enough information to calculate cost of sales. What's next? Indirect material. Indirect material will go to factory overheads as such. And when we go to factory overheads, which was given to us here luckily. So what we're going to do is that we are going to open brackets, put the opening balance, which is 21,000, and minus the closing balance, which is 16,000. We don't know what goes in between. It could be purchases of indirect material. It could be returns. We're going to minus returns. It could be carriage on transporting those indirect materials to the business. We will add it there as well. But here we don't have that information. All right. So I'll just leave that open for now. Well, I don't know if we don't have that information. We'll just have to read further. Then we have equipment. We've got accumulated depreciation. Well, for those ones, I'll just have to rely on additional information to see what will happen. Okay. Let's go to the first additional information about direct and indirect material. All right, and for A, we've got raw materials to the value of 1,580,000 were purchased during the year. That'll go to the direct material cost note or raw material cost note. And we are going to write it as purchases, which will be that 1,580,000. And for B, they say the following invoice for raw materials was not recorded. An invoice is what it's a source document we get when we buy raw materials. So when we bought raw materials, this invoice was not recorded, which had 200 meters of spandex super brand, which is 26,000. So that 26,000, we are going to add it to purchases, and the delivery cost that comes with that invoice, we are going to add that to carriage on purchases. And all of that goes to our direct or raw material cost note. I am going to add 26,000 under purchases, and the 500, I will put it as carriage on purchases. And that carriage, we call it carriage inwards. It's for delivery costs for goods that were delivered to us, but it must only relate to the delivery costs for delivering direct raw materials only, right? And the amount will be that 500 rand. Then they say the above invoice was not recorded as 50 meters of the spandex was returned to the supplier as it was not to specification. There is no refund on the delivery charge. Now we need to get those spandex super brand cost per meter. Now to get the cost per meter, we will divide that 26,000 by 200 meters. It'll give us cost per meter, which is 130, and then we multiply it by the number of units that were returned to the supplier, and that will be 50 units that were returned, which is 50 meters that was returned to the supplier, and that will be subtracted from purchases. Those returns will be subtracted from purchases, and that is the 6,500. Our total purchases will end up being 1,599,500. D. Transport of goods is outsourced to Tyler Trucks. A summary of their statement reflected the following. Number one, we've got a delivery of raw materials to the factory, which is 31,000. Now, that delivery of raw materials to the factory will be put under direct material cost. But the delivery of finished goods to the customer, those are selling and distribution costs. So they don't even go into production. Okay, so we will only take the 31,000. I'm glad they put this question because I normally tell my kids about it, that this is what they might do. And that's exactly what they've done here. We are going to take that 31,000 and add it to our carriage as such. 500 plus 31,000 will give us 31,500. Now I can calculate my raw materials used in the production, which is 1,571,000. That 1,571,000, I will take it to my cost of finished goods, actually not cost of finished goods. I'll take it to my production cost statement and write it there as such. Okay, so I will just write it there as my raw material cost. Let us move on to the next one. The next one, it says that all indirect materials are allocated to the production process, which is good. Indirect materials purchased in the year amounted to 47,000. I'm going to add that in my factory overheads as indirect material cost. And for my factory overheads, I will just add that 47,000 to my indirect material cost. Then I will simply get my total indirect material cost, which will be 52,000. 3, which relates to labor costs. Remember, for labor cost, we've got direct labor cost and indirect labor cost. Indirect labor cost goes to factory overheads. Direct labor cost goes to our production cost statements as such. We've got the details of the factory manager's salary, and these are as follows. This manager earns 60,000 per month, and deductions, in this case, deductions won't really matter. So it's 5,000 as pay as you earn, which is 26,000. I always forget to do this. I need to show my kids and everybody else how to calculate pay as you earn, right? And we've got, it's basically pay as you earn, it's basically the salary, but only the taxable part of the salary. And I will explain that when I do it. And then we've got company's contribution. That is important because that is cost to the company. The company contributes 50 cents for every 1 rand for medical aid deductions. So for every 1 rand that the employee contributes, we will contribute 0.5 of that. And everything here is monthly. And then the last part, they say that that factory manager will receive the 13th check. Now, a lot of people, just because they saw factory salary, they're thinking that is a direct cost. Guys, the factory manager, they also called factory foreman, what else? I think those are the big terms that they normally use. These are not people that are actually producing the product. Therefore, their salary and contributions to their salary will be part of our indirect labor cost. Indirect labor cost will be recorded in factory overheads as such. But now, when we record it in the factory overheads, how are we going to record it? Let me just read this carefully. And now it takes me here. But anyway, I'll just use my memory. It is 60,000. I'm going to multiply it by 12. It'll give me the 720,000. And then find the contribution. The only contribution we made was for medical aid, which was 0.5 of whatever the employee contributed. And according to this, the employee contributed how much towards the medical aid? The employee contributed 5,000. Take that 5,000 and multiply it by 12. So the employee contributed 60,000. And that means to the medical aid, we are going to contribute only 0.5 of that 60,000. That increases our cost to company cost in essence. Then we're going to add the 13th check. The 13th check will be the same as his monthly basic salary, which was 60,000. This gives us the total indirect labor cost, which will amount to 810,000. Let's move on. The factory employs 5 workers